Welcome BHL 1 class to one of our many discussions, this time a discussion on beginnings, on what happened at the beginning of Scripture, the beginning of the world, Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. This discussion is a little bit longer because there's just so much to cover in these opening sections of Scripture. Genesis 1 is all about creation. We hear in the opening verse, in the beginning. This is a time before there was, before everything but God. In the beginning, God. It's interesting that Genesis 1 doesn't defend or explain God's presence. It simply assumes it. In other places, we'll hear more details about God, but in this account, in the beginning, God is assumed. We hear that there is something God does, God creates. The Hebrew for the word create, bara, God is only ever the subject of this word. Humans don't bara. God baras. It's a special type of creating. It's a creation from nothing. So I can make some very delicious, cheesy hash browns. Yes, they slap. But I don't create them from nothing. I need the ingredients. But God can create from nothing. His voice is enough, as we will see. There's only one thing that is uncreated. The heavens, the earth, everything that we see, the universe, it is all created. Everything but God. God is eternal. It's a difficult concept to grasp. Eternity, we can't imagine not having a beginning. We can't imagine a time when there is nothing, but that's what there is. There is God and there is only God. That's how it was. Let's take a look at each of these days of creation. We'll start by drawing this six-pointed star on the top. We've got day 1. Got to turn the lights on first, so let there be light. Day 2, water and sky. Day 3, land and vegetation. Day 4, sun, moon, stars. Day 5, fish and birds. Day 6, land, animals, and man. And then, of course, day 7, God rests. God found delight in everything that he had made. Now, if we use this David star, this six-sided star, we can use a sort of memory device. If you look at things that are across from each other, such as day 1 and day 4, day 1 you've got light, and then day 4 you've got all the things that produce light in our world, the sun, the moon, the stars. Day 2 you've got water and sky. Day 5 you've got the things that inhabit the water and the sky, the fish and the birds. Day 3 you've got land and vegetation. Day 6 you've got land, animals, and man, things that inhabit them. Or if you want to think about it in another way, you draw a little horizontal line, a diagonal line. You see the things that are formed, the things that are filled. God forms the world, God fills the world. Now, interestingly, humans come on day 6. I think maybe if I was creating the world, maybe I would have put them first so that they could watch. But God doesn't do that. God saves the crown of his creation for last. He makes humans last. Instead of getting to watch God's creation, we take God at his word that he has done all of this. In the first chapter of Scripture, we see that we are created in God's image. That begs the question, then, what is the image of God? Well, the image of God is more than just physically looking like God. Some have come to that conclusion. No, being made in God's image is being like God. That means being holy. If you picture God's image as this center blue circle, we see God's holiness, his perfection, his righteousness, his peace, his completeness, his lack of need of anything else. We, too, were created with God's holiness. We also were created with a few other facets. We were created with reason, ability to ponder God's goodness, emotions. We were drawn to God in a very positive, beautiful way. Emotions are part of God's design for us. And we were created with a free will, freedom of choice, and the ability to use that freedom to always obey God. But we'll see in our discussion next time that we did not use our freedom, our will, to obey God. Instead, we fell into sin. Now we have an old man living inside of us. After falling into sin, we were no longer holy, but but now we were sinful. Our reason now tries to disprove God. We still have reason, yes, but it's diminished and it's distorted. We still have emotions, but now they're not always so wholesome. Now we can be ruled by our emotions. And that free will, yes, we still have that free will, but now we've lost the ability to obey God, and instead we choose to obey self. That image of God was lost in the Garden of Eden, but now we are being renewed after conversion, being renewed in God's image. We still have that old man living within us, but now we also have the new man as people who have come to know Christ. There's now a battle being waged in these various facets. Now reason doesn't simply doubt God and tries to disprove God, but now we have the new man, a new man who loves God and wants to obey him. Our emotions, constant battle. Our will, a constant battle. Sometimes we disobey Christ, sometimes we obey him. We see these two forces warring within us. Being made in the image of God is very personal and intimate. Let's take a step back and look at the larger scope of creation. In this diagram, we see just how expansive God's creation is. If the sun was a 2-foot in diameter beach ball standing about 2 feet away from us, well, then Mercury is going to be a mustard seed 164 feet away, very, very tiny. That's nothing in comparison to the distance from Pluto. Pluto's like a small pinhead being 3 miles away from us. Or think about our little galaxy, the Milky Way. There are 100 billion stars in the Milky Way. When God asks Abraham to look up and count the stars, if Abraham would have actually counted each and every star, assuming he could count one star a second, it would take him 3,000 continuous years to count all of the stars. Think about who we are, our human heart. Human heart beats 72 beats per minute. That's roughly 100,000 beats per day. In our lifetime, we're going to have our hearts move 265 million quarts of blood. That's a lot of blood. Or consider the human eye. Could we ever have dreamt of making something so complex? 130 million light receptors in our eyes, 3,000 different lines running from our eyes to our brains. Or our ears. I don't know how many of you are musical. I'm not super musical myself. But the piano, it's got 88 notes on it. Sounds like a lot, right? People spend years and years, lifetimes, learning how to play the piano. And yet the human ear can hear 15,000 notes. Completely dwarfs a piano, and it's about 1/100th of the size. Or consider the human nervous system. It's got 100,000 miles of nerve fibers. And it works quickly too. Messages get to the brain at 300 miles per hour. That is incredibly fast. Or our brains, the most powerful machine ever created. Throughout a 70-year life, the human brain processes 15 trillion bits of information using 13 billion neurons. If you took all the daily messages that our brain sends, it would be more messages than if you took every cell phone in the universe over the next 50 years. It's incredible. As much as we use our phones, our brains are working so much more, so much better even. If you took all the brain fibers and unraveled them from end to end, you could reach to the moon and back. Or the human circulatory system with all of our veins, our arteries, our capillaries. If you join them end to end, you could circle the world 3 or 4 times. As we discuss the first days of creation, those first 7 days of the world, people will question how long each of those days lasted. We will be learning to defend a 24-hour day viewpoint because that's what Scripture tells us. We hear each and every day, and there was evening and there was morning. God tells us that he gave us the sun, the moon, the stars to mark out our seasons and our times. And so literally we see evening, morning, literal markings of one day, the reason God created these systems in the first place. Also that word day, yom in Hebrew, it can be used in a variety of ways, much like how we use the word day to describe a few different situations. We think of day as a 24-hour period of light, or we think of day when it's daytime, when there's light. Or people will say, back in my day. Jesus uses it this way when he says, Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. But in view of the context of Genesis 1, if the sun comes up and goes down, if there's evening and morning, if the moon comes up and goes down, that's a 24-hour period of time. That's how we would view it. That is the most straightforward and standard way to think about things. Sometimes you'll hear people who want to espouse a creationalist view but don't want to completely write off evolution. They might talk about theistic evolution, God using really, really long days. But really, that's a viewpoint that isn't going to work for science, and it certainly doesn't work for Scripture either. From the science perspective, think about that form and fill thing again. How does vegetation survive for millions and millions of years, day 3, without the sun being made on day 4? Just doesn't make any sense. Or from Scripture's point of view, you just aren't taking God at his word. The simplest way to understand, it's a 24-hour period of time, evening, morning. Or as we see in Exodus 20:11, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. This is the assumption of the rest of Scripture, a regular 24-hour period of time. And yes, creation's a miracle, but we don't have to rationalize every miracle. When Jesus walks on water, that's not rational either, but we don't need to say that he had some sort of special floating shoes or he was using a surfboard, something like that. No, let's let God be God. Where Genesis 1 provides us an overview of God's creation of the world, Genesis 2 provides us with a detailed account about God creating the crown of his creation. You could say Genesis 2, it's really all about a man and his rib. And no, we're not talking about this rib, and we're not talking about a much superior Quick Trip pork rib sandwich. No, we're talking about human rib. The account of Adam and Eve. So far, everything in creation has been good, very good. But then we hear, not quite everything is quite so good. The Lord said it is not good for the man to be alone. It's not good for Adam to not have a counterpart. So God creates someone for Adam. Interestingly, he allows Adam to name the animals first. He gives him a chance to come to this realization on his own. And then God gets to work crafting Eve straight from Adam, very intimate way. And we see Adam's reaction to creation. This is now bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. Adam appreciates his counterpart. This very poetic section, very poetic verse in Scripture. And it even has modern applications. God makes the immediate application to marriage then and marriage now. We hear in the next verse, Genesis 2:24, this is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Yes, the story of our ancestors of Adam and Eve, it's got implications and applications to us today, as we too utilize God's gift of marriage.